Welcome to a demonstration of HP's cloud and automation system. So their cloud system version 3.2. That's the latest that's available from HP. It's organized pretty well when you look at the screen here. The way that it's set up is you literally walk across the screen and define things. And at the end, you end up with options you can present to your end users, be they internal customers, or if you're a service provider, commercial customers or residential customers that want to build, systems. So one of the first things I'm going to get into is the kinds of things that we can define. HP is capable of using literally any system in an automation stance that they sell, as well as going to outside vendors. Amazon EC2, for example. Getting control of what's going on with your shadow IT and what's going on in Amazon. If there's a requirement to use Amazon as a service provider, let's put it under management and let it be defined and requested from an interface that you control, not somebody logging directly into Amazon, giving a credit card, corporate card, or personal, and then billing you for it. Let's put it under here so that it can be reported upon. HP 3PAR is their storage system. So, EMC being a competitor to 3PAR, we can actually orchestrate using hardware abstraction layers like the hard drives. I did a presentation that you might want to go take a look at on HP's database of middleware automation. We can leverage that system within here and provide the ability to build databases or middleware applications, like build a web system, build a WebSphere system on top of an operating system I laid out. We can take advantage of HP's Matrix operating environment. So if you're a Matrix customer, you have Matrix racks, we can take advantage of those systems and rapidly build infrastructure for you. If you are a HP network automation customer or Cisco's configuration management, they're both the same piece of software, just with a different logo on them. And let's say you're going to build a server that, while it's being built, it has to sit in a partitioned off VLAN until you've installed all your security features, set up your firewall features, or maybe add it to a load balancer, for example. We need to put it in one VLAN, get it built, and then move it to another, or maybe contact a switch and set up a VLAN on the switchboard. We can take advantage of that too as part of the build process. HP Server Automation. We can both use HP Server Automation to do a fresh, clean operating system install. So there's a plan of how to build a server concept within Server Automation, as well as apply a patch, run a compliance check, items like that. Or just register it into the system such that if it's going to be around for a couple of months and new patches come out, the server administrators can apply patches to the systems to make sure there's no security holes. So a couple of different options there, but server automation is, again, one of the options. Put the system under management or applications on the system under management using HP SiteScope. So you'll notice, in some of these we're seeing a server is defined. And the definition is literally, where is the server? What are the credentials? We can put things in a CMDB. This is huge if you think about it. If somebody has a CMDB, they want to make sure that system is the system of truth. Way my network and way my infrastructure looks right now. Not yesterday or not what I'm planning to do tomorrow, but if it's going to be my system of record, I want it to be up to date constantly. So what we can do is, as a server gets built, an application gets added, it gets added to monitoring, whatever we want to do, we can create CIs that reference each and every one of those items and update the CMDB as soon as that action takes place. If a server gets removed, its registration expires or its lease expires, and it gets taken down and put back in my resource pool, I would then go and tell the system to go to the CMDB and remove those configuration items so that, again, it's the way my network looks right now. We have the ability to take OpenStack and do OpenStack builds, as well as VMware. There's also Hyper-V that's not listed here. I've seen customers that have been able to do Solaris zones by adding that provider. So what I've done here is I've just entered in the systems that I use. Within those systems, what am I offering? Okay, so for an example, for Amazon, what am I doing? I have a couple of offerings that I can go out there and do a compute offering, different sizes, small, medium, large, just the way Amazon likes it. For my database and middleware, I have some offerings set up that will allow you to create systems. Right? Oracle, lay down the software, create a database, create a JBoss server. Let's go out there and say, let me build a WebSphere deployment and management server that I can then use to create cells with. So WebSphere has a concept of cells. I would add nodes into that cell. WebLogic. I would go and create the WebLogic administrative machine, add managed servers into it. How about let's lay down some SQL servers. Let's lay down some SQL servers where I can take input from the end user. Let them name their instance, for example. Or maybe preload a patch. If you are a developer, we could go in and say, build the server the way it looks today, wait for a patch to come out from Oracle or from Microsoft. One's coming, a hot fix or something. Does it break my application? Well, wouldn't it be great if, as an end user or a developer or a tester, you could just come into the system here and say, go build that for me the way it looks today with my application on it, and have just a drop-down window that says, now add that patch, and you start testing immediately. Server gets built in about an hour, patch gets loaded, and you are then testing to make sure that patch doesn't break your application. There's been some of the customers that have seen this take care of some of their issues with being 6 months behind in patching, for example. They're able to get that patch put in place and tested very quickly for different applications. So there's an Oracle database or there's an Oracle group, and I'm running different applications against that database. I can then go and build my system the way it looks today. Get a hold of my application people and say, okay, the system's there. There's a drop-down box with a patch. Go and put your applications on it. Execute that patch and let's make sure it works. Instead of 6 months for all that to happen, and Oracle in the meantime has released another patch because I do it quarterly, I can pretty much stay up to date on my patching because when Oracle releases a patch, it's always security related. Right? When Microsoft releases a patch on their Super Tuesdays, it's pretty much security related. Those are important to keep up to date with. So these are the kinds of things that, as a provider, HP Database Middleware Automation, or DMA, will build inside a cloud system. It'll layer this on top of my infrastructure being my operating system, my Linux, my Windows, my Solaris. Right? Then we get into server automation. A couple of different things we can do. Right? We can actually deploy an entire server from scratch, or maybe I just want to add an agent so that now if the system's built and I'm a system administrator and these patches are coming out again, I can tell server automation to go deploy them network-wide because my server automation system knows that all these servers exist, and I can just select a group of them and apply the patches to them. My SiteScope system, add a server into management. We have an option here of actually automatically flexing a system. Flexing meaning adding things to it or removing things from it. Put a system under monitoring and monitor, for example, CPU utilization. If I start getting very, very high in my CPU utilization, I have issues with responsiveness. So that it'll monitor CPU, and I set a rule inside the monitor that says if I make it past 80% 3 times in 10 minutes, that's a bad thing. Go add another CPU. It'll automatically do that using this offering that we have defined here. Right? Add the system to the CMDB. Again, as I mentioned, right, the system gets built. I just take this little piece and I can go ahead and add it to the CMDB. And then my vCenter. vCenter, pretty much, we're going to use templates. So I define the templates. I also, using vCenter, can take advantage of what VMware allows you to do, adding and removing memory, adding and removing CPU. So it'll stop the system, add what I want, and bring the system back up. And so that's the resources. If you think about it, what we're doing here is we're taking control and saying what order do things happen. And this is the traffic cop to say, go talk to my VMware vCenter, create a clone of my Linux template for Oracle, for example. That template gets created. Now come out and install my Oracle system. Now come and put it under monitoring. Update my CMDB. Okay, well, how hard is that to do? Lo and behold, it's not that hard. So let's go take a look at one of what we're going to be doing. Let's go create us an Oracle server or take a look at what's involved. With everything within the system, obviously you have to have a name for it, keep track of it, and there's a pretty detailed description, 250 characters long, that we can put in here that describes what this design, it's actually a blueprint of a system. What does this blueprint do? Right? It provisions an Oracle server. It uses DMA to do it. It creates a VM based upon a template that we're providing to the definition to, and it goes out there and builds a system. So we're defining some different things. These are just containers that we're keeping track of to build the code that we feed into the cloud controller. And we come down to the group area, and we see that this particular one, I'm going to allow the end user to add a CPU should they want to. They build the Oracle server. Oops, I didn't make it big enough. They can have an option on their subscription screen to go and add resources to it, some CPU resources or memory resources. And there's properties involved, obviously. How many servers do I want to build in this case? In this case, right, if I run this system, I'm going to build one Oracle server. And then one Oracle server is going to look like this here, right? There's no user-entered options on this one. The database name is already going to be set. I have another option that will allow us to create the database name as we go. But I'm going to use my template. Remember we talked about VMware and what template to use. By default, I'm giving it 4 CPUs, 4 gig of memory. Where am I putting it in VMware? In my case, my data center, just as a reminder, a data center is this guy up here. So what data center am I going to park it in? I want to park it in CSA. And what customization specification am I going to use? Right? I'm using a template. The template already has a name in it. I don't want the same DNS name, host name being replicated 150 times. So that's one of the things we do is we just use a specification, and it just uses the host name or the VM name to create the host. The VM name, I'll show you where we define that. But how am I building this? Well, you remember the last screen where we were talking resources. We went through and said vCenter, right? What is that going to be? We talked about the provider DMA laying down the Oracle software. We talked about it creating a database. Oh, but I wanted to put this one under management, right? That's right. We talked about that. So let us go and stick this under monitoring. And literally, that's how easy it is. This will allow me to put it under monitoring, define that rule I talked about. Do I breach 80% CPU utilization X number of times in 10 minutes? Automatically go and make some changes. All right? We can add other things in here as well, but this is, pretty much how easy it is to do. Okay, so I have some, go add it to the CMDB. Why not? Right? Now I have my CMDB up to date as soon as this system is done. Now the interesting thing is this has already been saved. I don't have to go and save it. So the changes are real time. So this design has been updated, and I've adding it to SiteScope for monitoring. If I have a rule already built about keeping track of what's going on my Linux systems with CPU or memory, it automatically gets put into that little monitoring group. It will take care of that for me. It adds it into my CMDB, so my CIs are created. Right, so I have a design. That's my blueprint of what's going on. I can then present that blueprint to my user community. Right, user community being my internal users, my customers, heck, even my IT staff. If you want to make it easy for them, somebody asks for a server, you just say, you know what? Let's go build me a Red Hat server, or let's go build a Windows server. Right? All that stuff can be just put right in here, and they just go click, go. You can expose to them how much memory, how much CPU, and it can be added in. There is the ability to create approvals. So if somebody goes and tries to create 10 systems all at once, approvals, alarms start going off, right? You're running out of VMware space, you're running out of disk space. Before we do that, you can actually set it up so managers have to approve it, or not, or particular builds, particular looking things, right? Let's say this multi-tier application one is going to create multiple systems. This multiple system, is going to be actually 6 servers with applications on them. Before we're going to allow somebody to create 6 servers, somebody in management has to approve it. We can set it up for an approval. They get an email. You need to come into the system to approve the build of the server. They come in, they say it's approved, and it starts building almost instantly, right? We're then going, tie some things to it. Okay, summary. Well, the blueprint, remember I talked about service designs are a blueprint. So I'm going to use that blueprint from there. Are there any options? In this case, I didn't define any options, but there could be some. And wait, there's no money attached to it yet. We can do that, obviously, right here under pricing. Are there documents? As an example, do I have default logins? Information like that? Is there end user documents I want with it? I can attach those documents so that the end user can download it right from their subscription screen. So we move on to what's the general information. What am I going to call this offering so that when it's in the catalog, what's it going to look like? So we're going to provision a JBoss server using vCenter and a DMA application. We can do, again, the 250-character description, attach an image to it, whatever you want. So you can download your own company logos, or you take your logo, and you put some characters on top of it, right? So company logo and then some text on top. You can throw that in there, or use what HP provides out of the box, which are icons that look similar to this. You can upload your own like it was shown there. What options? Well, I didn't define any option sets for this one, but we can do options of how much memory, how much CPU, for example, as radio buttons. Do a small, medium, large as radio buttons. So small being defined as, let's say, 1 CPU, 1 gig of memory. And they'd select a radio button, and that's the size system they'd get. Pricing? Let's assign pricing to it, which then allows me to do my accounting information. Being, whether you use HP's asset management system, there's an add-on to Asset Manager that the product managers allow you to just download and use. Or there's third-party people that HP uses. There's a Cloud Cruiser that allow you to do your reports, do your pricing, generate chargeback, showback type reports, and this is where you define those things. Some companies do. What's my setup fee? Right, just create my account as an example. They charge you a fee in the public world. So let's give that a $5. My recurring price. Well, let's say it's $5, and you'll notice we have different time periods. Previously, you had to decide what your time period was going to be and project that through everything. Now you can do on a subscription or offering by offering basis what that time period is going to be. Okay, so if we're going to charge $5 to set it up, $5 on a monthly basis, and if I had end user documents, I could attach them here, right? So I would just upload it right into here, and when the end user goes and selects it, they would have those documents. So I just created an offering, but it's not in a catalog yet for an end user to use. Right? I've created it, it's sitting there waiting. Where's my catalog, and what does my catalog look like? So let's define catalogs here. There is a global catalog. This is a true multi-tenant system. So anything in engineering is only going to be accessible by people that have engineering in their LDAP or Active Directory capabilities. Marketing, exactly the same. Right? If you're not in the marketing container, you won't see what's in here. The global catalog, everybody gets to see, because global literally means global, right? So let's take a look at, the kinds of things. We give it a name. We can pull images. So if you have a icon for your engineering group, you can put that icon on their catalog, right? What categories do you want to define for that catalog, right? You'll notice in this case a lot of things are under platform service. What offerings are in that catalog? So these are the offerings that are being presented globally to end users here, and what they're assigned to as their categories. Okay? Sales, again, they have a couple of theirs. R&D has theirs. All right, so the R&D guys obviously have more than sales does, because they actually create the systems for you. So there's my catalogs. As soon as I do something, let's say, okay, let's go back into catalogs and say global, published. If I say add offering, there we go. If I move this one into the global catalog, if an end user was already logged into the system in their consumer dashboard, all they would have to do is hit refresh, and it would appear in their global catalog. Right? So here's the one I just added into the global catalog for those people. Platform services are in here. So these are the platform services in a global catalog. Here's maybe an offering that has some end user options. So again, like we talked about, small, medium, large. And this would be the definition. There's some costing associated with it. So if you look up here, here's my summary. The way it sits right now, if I choose a small server, this would be the initial and recurring price. It'll update if I choose the medium. Notice here. And then there's a database name that I can define. So previously I talked about opening up something where I can change the name of the database when we were looking at the Oracle offering. The subscription name, I'd have to give it a name of, right? Demo test, go into your description so you yourself know what it is. Okay, I've got a medium system. I have it defined. I go and request it. And it appears, there's my requests, right? This one just appeared. I did not have an approval policy associated with it, so it was pre-approved. And the order's pending as it sets up the record and submits it into the cloud controller. So if we go into pending, you'll see that one. If we go into approved, you'll see the ones that were previously approved. If I go into subscriptions, you'll see what I have going on here. I had one called WAS Test that I got rid of earlier today, so it was canceled. I requested it on August 29th. It built it. I took it offline this morning, and this guy should be running now. It'll build it and allow it to happen, right? So there's the one that was taken offline. If we look at the information on this one, we'll see, if we go back and think to the screen I was looking at in the CSA administrative screen, and we look at the designer screen, you'll see where we have these containers that I talked about, right? So we have container 1, we have infrastructure, the group of servers, and the actual server, those are referenced right here. So anywhere where there's an option or a property is going to appear in this section. In this case, since it's going to allow me to flex the system, we're going to see that show up here. When the server's done, there'll be a drop-down box that says Add CPU, Add Memory, right? In the SQL Server area, all right now I have is my database, and I could do things like drop-down box, Add Patch. Okay, so he's building right now. So the order is approved. We should be moving along. We are deploying now. So the order got approved, and it's deploying, and it's off and running. All right. There's a dashboard along with the end user piece that lets you know what you got going on. Right? How many subscriptions have you had, since the beginning of time? How many are pending? If maybe there was a policy on it to say, does it need to be approved? Well, was it denied? And maybe there's if you go in there, there's a reason it was denied that your boss or whomever would attach to it to let you know why. How many were canceled, right? Over time, not just today, but over time, you end up here with the most popular services. Because I've only done a couple on this system, that's not filled up. But if you look down here, you'll see that if it were to move up into the drop-down box, it would be in this order, right? Anything that was added recently to a catalog would appear here so that you can just go and grab it. And then all the notifications for you as an end user, okay? So my subscription is still deploying. If we actually look at it, we should see that the server, it just copied my virtual machine. It is powering it on so that it can be used and install SQL on it. In the case of Windows, right, it reboots a few times, so it takes a little bit of time, but it'll end up creating a system right down here. I believe that's what I called it, right? Demo test, yes. So this is a system it's creating, and if we look at it, right, it's sitting there right now. It'll reboot one more time probably, set up the sysprep items, set up Windows with its unique identifier, and then install SQL on it. So from the standpoint of that, it's a very interesting system from the standpoint of being powerful. Imagine the things that we can do by being the traffic cop between all these different kinds of systems. We're just not talking, go and create me a template. Okay, I have cloud. How about if we take some of our enterprise systems and move them into this so that they can be requested at any time? Maybe my development or my testing type systems are defined in here so that as a new piece of software comes out, a new patch comes out, somebody wants to maybe make some changes, just with a couple of button clicks, I build that server without getting 10 people involved. Right? I don't get my server administrators involved. I don't get my DBAs and my application administrators involved. I don't get network involved. I don't get the monitoring people involved. It automatically happens in here just by setting it up the way we just showed you.